Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for the launch of the International Energy Agency's new special report on universal access to clean cooking in Africa. I'm Jethro Mullen, head of the IEA's communications team. I'm very pleased that today I'm joined not only by our executive director, Dr. Fatih Birol, but also by two distinguished guests. These are the African Union Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, Lerato Matabohe, and by the Special Representative of the President of Tanzania for Clean Cooking, Jacqueline Kawishe, and also by the IEA Director of Sustainability, Technology and Outlooks, Laura Kotze, who oversaw the new report, which, I would like to note, is freely available to read and download on our website. So during today's event, Dr. Birol will make some opening remarks, and then we will pass the floor to our distinguished guests from the African Union and Tanzania. After that, Laura will present the key findings of the report, and then we'll have a chance to take questions from journalists. For the journalists taking part in this press webinar, we invite you to send your questions via the Q&A function in the Zoom. You can do this at any point during the presentation, and we'll also take a 2-minute break right after the presentation for you to enter your questions. And with that, I'll hand over to our Executive Director, Dr. Birol.
Jethro, greetings to our friends and colleagues from the International Energy Agency headquarters in Paris. Welcome to our webinar on the Universal Access to Clean Cooking in Africa report. It's a special report and on a very important topic. But before starting my words, let me also welcome the Madam Commissioner. Thank you very much, Madam Commissioner, for coming back to Paris, to IEA, and also Mrs. Kawishe from Tanzania. Thank you very much, the Mrs. Kawishe, for coming to IEA in Paris. Also, I wanted to use this opportunity to thank my colleague Laura Kotze, who is the director of our Sustainability and Technology Office, and with the great team, her great team with Dan Wetzel and the others made an excellent report on this very important topic. Dear colleagues, International Energy Agency has been pioneering this issue over 2 decades. And it is a topic that rarely makes the headlines. In the newspapers, in the social media, in televisions, you rarely see this topic to be raised, the clean cooking issue. But in my view, it is one of the greatest injustices in the world. Today, according to our analysis, our report, 1 billion people in Africa, they are preparing their meal on the open fire using wood, dung, and charcoal. This means 4 out of 5 households prepare their meal by using these rather primitive practices. And it has huge implications. First, on health. The fumes coming from preparing meal for the families in Africa, especially by women, it leads to respiratory diseases. And according to our work with the World Health Organization, every year 800,000 people die prematurely because of the respiratory diseases caused by the using this type of cooking practices. And out of this 800,000 people losing their lives prematurely, which is, by the way, the second cause of premature death in Africa, most of them are women and children. So this is at a time when we discuss in other parts of the world how we provide the energy for artificial intelligence or self-driving cars or other issues. This is not acceptable. It is the reason IEA has been working on this since years. It is a health issue, as I mentioned, it is also a gender issue, a woman issue, because many women lose their lives because of this. Plus, we also know that on average, women in Africa spend about 4 hours to collect the wood and bring it back home and prepare the meal. Lots of waste of time instead of putting this time for education, for other social areas. They are focusing on this very issue. And also, cutting the wood means loss of forests in Africa. Forests are natural endowment of those countries. Plus, for Africa, but globally, they also play a role as a sink of the carbon emissions. So putting all together, at the IEA, we believe we have all the reasons as the global energy authority to look at this issue, which is a major, major issue, even though it doesn't attract the headlines. Now, what bothers me, dear colleagues, personally, is that while it is such a dramatic issue, when I compare all the other global energy topics we deal at the IEA, it is very easy to solve. You don't need to discover new technologies, implement the advanced technologies to solve this problem. And it is not very expensive. You don't need trillions of dollars. So therefore, this contrast being a huge, dramatic issue, plus the solution of it requires simple policies and existing technologies at a very low cost, is something that we at the IEA point out to governments, to industry, and all international fora. So it is the reason we prepared this report. We are releasing this report. And in our report, basically, we have two main divisions, two main sections. The first one is devoted to the tracking of the major conference we have convened in Paris last year and the money we raised. I hope, I expect that many of you might have heard about this very event. Last year, last May, in Paris, we organized a Clean Cooking in Africa summit. More than 1,000 people, more than 60 governments around the world attended the meeting, and I had the honor to co-chair this conference with the President of Tanzania, Madame Suluhu Hassan, and the Prime Minister of Norway, Mr. Jonas Støre. And in that meeting, we have mobilized funds from public and mostly private sector, about 2.2 billion US dollars. 2.2 billion US dollars. It is, the meeting was the biggest event organized on clean cooking itself, and the money was at a record level, 2.2 billion. And at that meeting, I said that in 1 year of time, we are going to come back to you, to the international community, all these governments. What happened to 2.2 billion? How much of that money is spent for what? We are going to track that development. And in this report, prepared by my colleague Laura Cozzi and her team, we see that between last May, we had the conference, until today, $470 million of that 2.2 billion has been dispersed, and it has been used in different forms of providing clean cooking in 16 African countries. Let me give you a couple of examples what we did with this money, what happened with this money, that it is more concrete in our minds. First of all, very impressive, since we have Tanzania with us, this money was used to support the construction, already started, 2 new LPG terminals in Tanzania. It helped to open a new stove factory in Malawi, a bottling facility and depot in Namibia, new stove provision programs in Uganda and Cote d'Ivoire, and the fuel storage being established in Nigeria. This is some of the examples how this $470 million has been used. We are also seeing that not only this money, but after our this mobilization, after this conference, 40 new government policies have been introduced across the continent, and we are seeing real gains, real achievements in several countries, such as in Kenya, Nigeria, and Cote d'Ivoire. So when the pace in these countries are very much in line with some of the success stories in the other parts of the world, because this is not only an issue in Africa, it's the main problem in Africa, but it has been an issue in all emerging countries. But countries like Brazil, Indonesia, and India had policies, had targets, and with the help of their own domestic industry and the international community, they solve this problem by and large, and these countries are following that pace. Dear colleagues, you will see in our report we give a good documentation of what happened with this $2.2 billion we raised last May, and what are the next plans. The second part of our report comes up with a roadmap. Roadmap is the following: what needs to be done in order to eradicate this problem for once and forever in Africa, and how much does it cost to solve this problem. My colleagues made an excellent work, very granular, country by country, looking at the existing infrastructure of the clean cooking infrastructure in the entire Africa, and came up with the most cost-effective solutions, most rapid solutions, how we can bring this issue to a solution, how we can have it as a historical success in Africa. So they come up with a plan, different solutions for different countries, but we think the main part of the solution is through LPG. More than 60% of the solution to clean cooking problem goes through deploying LPG in many countries, but also electricity, biomethane, biogas will be important to have a universal access to clean cooking in Africa. How much does it cost? As I said in the beginning, in the energy world, we have many challenges. And to solve these challenges, to solve these topics, you need a lot of money. But here, to bring a universal clean cooking to entire Africa, to change the entire life of the millions of women and children and African people, we need $2 trillion. And this is, when we look at it, this is only 0.1% of global energy investment. So 0.1% of global energy investment, because total amount is every year we have to raise this $2 billion, And when we compare with the global energy investments, it is only 0.1%. It is almost nothing. And this can be easily mobilized from domestic sources and from, hopefully, with the help of the international community. And also there is a job for the domestic governments, the national governments, to make sure that this is affordable. The bottle, for example, for the LPG on the fuel or biomethane, there is a need for the governments to come with policies, looking at the revisions of maybe some of the tax policies, providing a direct targeted support to its citizens, maybe starting the procurement from the schools, from hospitals, from the government buildings, and this could be definitely giving a big push to that. If we are able to do that, if we raise $2 billion per year to fix this problem, the benefits are huge. First of all, the health benefits. We save lives, about 4.7 million lives. We are, of course, providing a lot of spare time to women who spend, as I said, normally 4 hours per day. This goes on. And from an environmental point of view, this is a great news because we are also saving emissions, significant amount of emissions. It is also from an environmental point of view, this is a net benefit solution. So, dear colleagues, I would like to finish my words first of all, thanking again my team working on this very topic, thanking the African Union for the cooperation, and also Tanzania for the Madam President's leadership, but also once again to solve this problem, this one of the biggest, in my view, injustices in our world. It requires just deploying the existing technologies at a very low cost, and IEA has pioneered this issue since 20 years, and we are seeing now that this year, 2025, is getting a lot of momentum, and it can be a turning point to address this issue, and we will continue to follow it from the International Energy Agency. With this, I am turning back to my colleague, Mr. Mallon.
Thank you very much, Dr. Birol. And we're now very pleased to be able to hear from the African Union Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, Lerato Matabohe. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Program Director, Dr. Fatih Birol, the Executive Director of International Energy Agency, Dr. Jacqueline Kawisha, Special Envoy for Clean Cooking for the United Republic of Tanzania, Madam Lara, and your fellow distinguished International Energy Agency executives, media fraternity, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It certainly is an honor for me to join you today on behalf of the African Union Commission to launch the publication Universal Access to Clean Cooking in Africa, which leads us to a progress report and a roadmap to implementation. I'd also like to express my appreciation to Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, for her leadership on the global stage through African Women Clean Cooking Support Program. Under the President's leadership, the 38th Assembly of the African Union that we held in February this year, for the first time declared clean cooking a top priority for Africa. That is a big development for us. Our heads of states on the continent requested the United Republic of Tanzania to continue championing clean cooking on the continent. In this regard, I, as Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, and my team will provide the necessary support for the role. This outcome resonates certainly with our continued call for high-level commitment by African leaders in tackling the clean cooking challenge on the continent. This is also emphasized in our recent joint publication on sustainable scaling, meeting the clean cooking challenge in Africa, that we launched together with the government of Tanzania at COP29. I would like to thank and congratulate certainly the International Energy Agency, led by Dr. Birol, for convening all the partners, for tracking progress, and for elevating clean cooking to the global agenda. We certainly appreciate your efforts and value the ongoing collaboration with the African Union Commission and its institutions. The African Union, through our Specialized Energy Agency, the African Energy Commission, AFREC for short, is honored to have contributed to the discourse leading to today's event. Today's publication is certainly a significant contribution towards evidence-driven decision-making on clean cooking. This launch is also important as it takes stock of the progress that we have made since the summit on clean cooking in May last year and the high-level side event on clean cooking that we hosted at COP29. Today rejuvenates the joint efforts in tackling the clean cooking challenge globally and on the African continent in particular. Ladies and gentlemen, despite all the progress that we have reported and that we have noted in creating an enabling environment for the transition to clean cooking in countries such as Ghana, Kenya, Madagascar, Nigeria, Tanzania, and Uganda, more than 70% of Africa's population still lacks access to clean cooking technologies. This accounts for almost half of the global population living in energy poverty. We have seen some bit of progress, 20% increase in clean cooking access. We've seen approximately 20% increase in clean cooking investments in Africa. However, this is inefficient and insufficient to overcome the challenge. The lack of action on this front continues to cost us more than $791 billion per annum due to the negative externalities of gender inequality, health, and climate change. And Dr. Birol expounded on this considerably. This situation therefore calls for immediate action by all partners to tackle the challenge. It is impossible for us to have a global transition to clean cooking without addressing the funding challenge, without addressing the technology challenge, most importantly, without addressing the localization challenge. Clean cooking is fundamental for health, equality, and economic empowerment, especially for women and girls across Africa. Through the Clean Cooking Program, we therefore call upon all stakeholders to turn pledges into real action on the ground. First of all, we need our governments on the African continent to urgently adopt progressive policies that promote the cooking agenda in Africa, also aligning clean cooking planning with the national economic and energy planning activities. Secondly, we need to shift the manufacture, distribution, and supply chain of clean cooking technologies from outside of the continent of Africa closer to the people who need it most. Through this, we can stimulate local economies, empower communities, and improve clean access for all. Most importantly, we can contribute to Africa's industrialization. Third, we need to mobilize all forms of financing, including climate funding, to support clean cooking. This is not only for clean cooking value chain creation, but also to make clean cooking solutions affordable to those that need them most. Fourth, we need to build a national basket of fuels based on available resources, existing and potential value chains, and infrastructure for a just clean cooking transition that supports socioeconomic growth. The African Union is committed to work with all stakeholders to tackle the clean cooking challenge. The African Clean Cooking Program provides us with a platform where we can conduct high-level advocacy in clean cooking, supporting African Union member states in data collection and strategy planning, and establishing an African Clean Cooking Facility for fund mobilization and to support our member states in implementing clean cooking programs. So all the work that has been done today, the efforts that have been put by the IEA, is certainly in alignment with our priorities. I therefore congratulate you once again for the report, and we're quite pleased to be part of this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for those remarks. And we can now hear from our distinguished guest from Tanzania, the Special Representative of the President of Tanzania for Clean Cooking, Jacqueline Kawishe. The floor is yours.
Dr. Barrow, thank you for inviting us to this event. Tanzania was proud to have co-chaired the IEA Summit on Clean Cooking. And we already have seen the impacts of our shared comments. Clean cooking is not luxury. It's an issue that touches every family every day, from rural villages to growing cities. This is a major issue for Tanzania and leads to over 33,000 premature deaths each year in Tanzania due to indoor air pollution. I'm here from the President's, whereby my President, Her Excellence Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, is a championing clean cooking. Let me share some of the successes that Tanzania has achieved since we had the summit last year. In Tanzania, only 6.9% of population had access to clean cooking fuels and technologies in 2021. And this number has increased up to 15.9% today. Our President has made this a top priority and just yesterday unveiled the Tanzania National Development Vision, which is Vision 2050, which is importantly focuses on ensuring access to clean, safe, affordable, sustainable, and reliable cooking energy. Tanzania is also making rapid progress on implementing the concrete measures we committed to at the summit. As the IEA analysis shows, Tanzania is one of the countries who has made the most policy progress since the summit. Some of this progress, including stove distribution programs that we have been providing over 450,000 LPG cook stoves and cylinders, over 200,000 improved cook stove, and a natural gas connection to 980 households in urban areas. We have also providing clean cooking equipment and connection to over 31,000 public institutions. These include government buildings, schools, and prisons, and following a ban on the use of firewoods and charcoal for cooking in institutions in Tanzania facilities. We have also a program for awareness, national and international, development of national clean cooking database and baseline survey, development of national clean cooking fund, including specialized support for small, medium enterprises funded by EU, development of minimum energy performance standard, MEPS, for clean cooking stoves and appliances, capacity building program for technicians, e-cooking training, and formation of dedicated clean cooking units, and also tax exemptions or reduction on clean cooking. We are already beginning to see the impacts of these initiatives, with several new projects announced that are directly linked to the commitment made at the summit and growing engagement from the private sector. These include new LPG receiving and storage facility announced by Petridec and Oryx, new production and assembly plants for stoves, LPG cylinders, e-cooking appliances, and solar stoves, new biogas and bioethanol production facility, and expanded city gas network in major cities. Tanzania is experiencing rising demand for clean cooking energy and is taking deliberate steps to meet it securely and affordably. The government is leveraging its ample domestic resources, fast-tracking key infrastructure and clean cooking projects, and building strong partnership with the private sector in order to develop robust supply chains. Tanzania remains committed to maintain a stable political and social environment with enduring support for clean cooking that makes for an attractive investment environment. How Tanzania championing access to clean cooking and making it a Pan-African issue. Tanzania, under the leadership of President Samia Suluhu Hassan, is proud to champion clean cooking on the continent, but we cannot do it alone. Just as Tanzania tabled the Dar es Salaam Declaration to be formally adopted at the AU Assembly last Friday on electricity access, President Samia Suluhu Hassan stands ready to advance an action-oriented clean cooking agenda for formal adoption at the AU. This is based on the forthcoming clean cooking infrastructure and investment action plan for the G20 for formal adoption by the African Union Assembly. This is why Tanzania is working closely with South Africa to support their G20 presidents in developing their clean cooking infrastructure and investment action plan. Tanzania is also looking to develop a new African women clean cooking facility. It's a multi-billion-dollar initiative that once launched, we will accelerate the scale-up of clean cooking solution across the continent. Lastly, as chair of the African Group of Climate Negotiators this year, Tanzania is firmly planting clean cooking on the agenda in the UNFCCC negotiation leading up to COP30 in Berlin, which touches on many key priorities for Brazil, such as transaction, adoption, forest preservation, and gender. We look forward to advancing this important agenda with international partners and the IEA in years to come. To conclude, Tanzania's leading efforts are paying off as Her Excellency President Samia Suluhu Hassan's effort to prioritize policies that work for women and the most vulnerable in society. We look forward to continue to work with the IEA and other international partners to advance clean cooking efforts domestically and as Pan-African agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline Kawishe, the Special Representative of the President of Tanzania for Clean Cooking. So now we can hear from Laura Kotze, the IEA Director of Sustainability, Technology and Outlooks, who can tell us a bit about the key findings of this report. Over to you, Laura.
So thank you very much, Jethro, and thank you very much, Dr. Birol, Madam Commissioner, the Special Representative of the President of Tanzania. Let me start from where Dr. Birol actually opened. The very reason why we decided to put forward this report is stemming from a promise that Dr. Birol made at the very end of the Clean Cooking Summit that we co-hosted here in Paris last year, saying that we would track every single stove, every single dollar, and every single commitment that was made at the summit last year in May. And this is what we are doing here with you today. We are reporting back to you, how are we doing? And I have to say that very often at the IEA, we have the not very nice task to say that things are not on track. And in fact, it's a great pleasure today to say that something is on track. The disbursement that we have been monitoring very closely since May last year to date are very well on track to what was promised, meaning delivering from now to 2030 $2.2 billion to the African continent to advance this very important cause. You have heard from Dr. Birol, you have heard from the African Union Commissioner, you have heard from Madam Kawishe. This is gone to real projects across the entire sub-Saharan African continent, from fuel storage to bottling facilities, stove deployment programs, capacity building benefiting governments. One important point that we have not touched upon yet is that 80% of this money was actually coming from the private sector. This is incredibly important because it is with the private sector that this issue can really be solved, and we have seen real mobilization. At the summit, there were actually two sides of the coin in terms of commitments. On the one hand, the financial part, absolutely essential. On the other hand, the policies. And for what concerns policies, equally, I think we are here to give very, very good news. We see that today, and if you look back over the past year, 7 out of 10 people that are living in Africa without access to clean cooking saw progress and new policies just stemming over the past year. You have heard examples from Tanzania again. We have highlighted that as a really prime example, but from Kenya and several other countries, 40 new policies around the continent. So we are really seeing a buzzing, a beginning of a potential turning point. Now, at the summit itself, we had the pleasure to hear a number of success stories. Dr. Birol mentioned, we heard from Brazil, we heard from India, we heard from Indonesia. And what we did is actually going back to all these countries and talking to all African countries and understand, okay, what are the lessons that we can take looking back at the success stories, and how do we apply them to the African continents? And what we found is that actually over the past 15 years, from 2010 to date, Asia, Latin America, they were largely able to solve the problem. They brought access to clean cooking over the span of 15 years to 1.5 billion people. It means that we went back and understand how do we replicate these successes. And what we find is the following, is the roadmap that Dr. Birol mentioned. So currently, if we were to just follow the policies that are in place, this is before actually the flood of new commitment that we've seen at the summit, we will start seeing a turning point, but not at all reaching clean cooking access within the next couple of decades. But it is within reach because it just requires repeating what the best examples we have heard and we have seen are taken to Africa. How do we need to do that? And this is what we have been doing. We have been actually plotting at the very, very granular level. You see it actually here, where every single person that lacks access to clean cooking in Africa is located today. And what we have done is actually mapped this vast population with their domestic endowments, the infrastructure that is around them, the different regulatory framework, and map it with other examples that we have seen over the past 15 years. So we have here a very, very detailed analysis of where all the 50 LPG ports are located in Africa, where the 25 bioethanol plants are, where biogas potential is, where the biopellets facilities are located. Not only, we have actually monitored very closely where the distribution facilities are, for example, for LPG, butane, propane. So how long, me as a family, do I need to walk to actually go and get my next bottle? Is it close? Is it far? Do I live near a reliable electricity network? So having done this very, very precise and specific mapping, we have also understood what is missing. In which areas do we need to focus, and on what type of infrastructures we need to prioritize the development. And what we find, doing a very granular, again, affordability analysis, is what we find is that actually we can reach over 60% of the currently deprived people of clean cooking with liquefied petroleum gas, butane, propane, another 17% with extension of electricity network, and then a combination of other fuels and technology. We have heard many of them from Tanzania and from the African Union Commissioner. Is a combination of fuels and technology that need to be anchored to the Africa solution space. This type of shares that you see here are actually very similar to what we have seen actually being developed on the ground over the past 15 years around the globe. How much does it cost? Again, Dr. Birol mentioned it, is $2 billion a year on average from now to 2040, the year in which clean cooking poverty could be fully eradicated. In Africa, 0.1% of global energy investment. And what would be the benefits of achieving full clean cooking across the African continent? We will be talking about nearly 5 million lives saved from now to 2040. Every woman, every child that is currently busy on a daily basis fetching fuel wood and other type of fuels and cooking would save several hours a day. We understand this on a personal, individual basis, but there is also a big, important feedback on the overall economy. Why? The amount of hours that you actually save in a year would be equivalent of the time spent working across Brazil. This very clearly shows that there is a big economic opportunity for the continent that is being untapped and could be unleashed the moment clean cooking is, for all is achieved. Again, the clean cooking sector per se is also a job creator. We find again that the distribution and the deployment of these different type of infrastructures across the continent will create permanent jobs, around 450,000 jobs a year to 2040. To give a sense of scale, this is the same amount of employment that currently the African utilities have. So it's again a very significant economic and development lever. And finally, we spoke about forests, very important for Africa. And in this roadmap, very clearly, the distribution of LPG, the incremental electricity, the bioethanol, etc., would all in all prevent a very significant amount of cutting, a very significant amount of forest, the size of Ecuador, and bringing global greenhouse gas emission savings. Here at the IEA, we are continuing to track this, where the money is being spent, where the policies are being implemented. I invite you to go to our website because line by line you will find exactly where every dollar has been spent. And in the very immediate future, we are actually working with the G20 South African presidency, as Tanzania mentioned as well, on the Clean Cooking Infrastructure and Investment Action Plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. So we now have a chance to take some questions from journalists. As mentioned, we invite the journalists in attendance to send your questions through the Q&A function of the Zoom if you haven't done so already. And please mention your media outlet along with your question. We're just going to take a 2-minute break to give you a chance to send your questions, and we will be right back. Thank you.
Ninapoamka asubuhi, cha kwanza kabisa huwa naenda kutafuta kuni. Watoto wangu huwa wanaenda kunisaidia. Tuna jinsi lazima nitumie, na mimi maisha yangu na ya kuni. Lazima nipate hizi kuni, nipate kuwapikia watoto. Maana hiyo sio lazima ule, lazima utaenda tu kutafuta kuni. Wewe ni kukata kuni, kila siku nikata kuni. Na mimi natamani ningepata vyanzo vingine vya matumizi, yani vya kupikia, yani kiachana na hizi kuni, vyanzo vingine na mimi nikivipata na mimi niweze kwenda na wakati kama wenzangu. Muda tu umekaa unashangaa tu machozi yanatiririka yenyewe yanatoka. Moshi unahisi umesha ni asili. Na huu mkono unakufa ganzi kwa sababu ya kazi. Kila siku ni kuni, kila siku ni kuni.
Today's fresh new announcements at this very meeting accounts $2.2 billion. We are a data organization. We believe in data. We will follow up what is happening with this money. We will follow it as if it is our own money. And we will see how this money is spent, and we will share the results with the international community.
Hello, and welcome back. Thank you very much to the journalists who have sent questions so far. The first one we have is from TRT Africa, and they ask, given some of the cuts to development budgets, what kind of support does Africa really need from international partners on clean cooking? I can perhaps ask the Commissioner if you could give your perspective on that.
Thank you. Certainly international partnerships are critical for us to roll out this big agenda. One priority area will be around investments, in particular investments in manufacturing capabilities and infrastructure. And I'm quite pleased with the disbursement, for example, of the 2.2 billion that was pledged. That is a start, but we need to accelerate and make sure that we increase that sort of support. So we're looking for private sector investments in particular around, bottling plants, as an example, even manufacturing of stoves. The majority of the equipment that is utilized around clean cooking is imported from elsewhere. So very little is manufactured on the continent. And if it is, then we also face the affordability issue. It's around the cost of that equipment. So if we want majority of the women of the continent to transition, we need to make sure that it's accessible, it's affordable, it's reliable. So investments that are closer to the consumer, investments that can help unlock the big opportunities, really what we are looking for. Not so much in this new era aid, but investments and partnerships so that we are able to build a sector as a robust industrial sector for the African continent.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. We also have a couple of questions, I think, trying to clarify some of the numbers we've been talking about. We've thrown quite a lot of numbers at you. One question is from Vivian Chime from Climate Home News. She says the report says reaching universal clean cooking access in Africa requires 37 billion in total investment, more than 2 billion a year. And then the 2.2 billion committed last year at the IEA summit, is it per year or through 2030? And then how does that relate to the 470 million that has been dispersed from that 2.2 billion? And how does that relate to the annual average that needs to be spent to achieve universal access? And then one other question, the journalist didn't provide their name, but they were asking how many people in total gain access to clean cooking under the roadmap that we've published today between now and 2040. So Laura, perhaps.
Thank you, Jethro. So Vivian, maybe to clarify, achieving access to clean cooking, full access to clean cooking by 2040 requires indeed 37 billion through to 2040, so 2 billion a year, less than 0.1% of global average investment in the energy sector on an annual basis. The amount of money that was committed at the summit last year was a total of $2.2 billion that has to be disbursed from last year to 2030. Just to give a sense of scale, in Africa, our latest tracking of investment in the continent that is going to clean cooking is around 675 million. This was in 2023. So the additional disbursement that we have seen coming from the summit is incredibly significant. And in terms of the number of people that would gain access if the roadmap was achieved, it would be around 80 million a year.
Thank you, Laura. And just one other clarification from Matt Scotland of Argus Media. He's asking about the public versus private breakdown of the funding commitments and what's been dispersed. So if public sector funding amounts to 20% of the 470 million, that is about 94 million. Is this falling short of the pledges in some way? But I think it's more about what the pledges were in the first place, but perhaps you can explain better than I can.
Just to explain, 80% of what has been disbursed up to now was from the private sector. This doesn't necessarily correspond to the shares that were put forward at the summit in discussion with the public sector commitment. They were from the start being expected to be moved more towards the end of this decade rather than immediately, and a bit different in nature, being a combination of concessional finance and, for example, capacity support and capacity building. So they're going to have slightly different profile over time.
Thank you, Laura, for those clarifications. I'm conscious we've gone quite a bit over time, so maybe we can squeeze just one more question in that comes from Nuran Erkal from Anadolu Agency. She has a question for Dr. Birol, asking in a broader sense, what has caused this renewed emphasis on clean cooking access for the IEA at this time? So Dr. Birol, perhaps you can put it in perspective.
Thank you. In fact, this is an issue that we have been working almost 20 years, Laura, more than 20 years, in fact 22 years, because of maybe 3 reasons why IEA is working on it. One, we are an energy organization, and we believe energy is something to make the people's life better, more comfortable, healthier, and more prosperous, the economies. And today, in Africa, we see lack of energy for clean cooking is a major issue. Therefore, this is an energy issue in addition to being a humanitarian issue, as I said in the beginning. Therefore, we believe this is a key topic for the IEA. It was key topic since 20 years, and this year we have been working on this with the momentum coming from our the summit that my fellow colleagues here mentioned. We focus on that. This is the one reason. Energy issue, we are the energy organization. Second, we are a global energy organization. We know the energy challenges in some parts of the world is how we find electricity for the self-driving cars. But we should also acknowledge that in Africa today, 4 out of 5 families don't have energy, clean energy, to prepare their meals, with catastrophic health and economic consequences. So it's a global agency, means to look at globally and feel responsible for every citizens in the world as far as the energy is concerned. And we will be looking into this in the next years to come, follow it, tracking the developments, because we have the data. We are able to analyze this data, what is happening, and provide concrete policies, pragmatic policies to governments to address the challenges. And we have at the IEA an unparalleled convening power in the international fora, with governments, with energy industry. In this, Laura mentioned, the 80% of this 2.2 billion money came from the private sector. Again, another confirmation of the IEA's convening power with the private sector and beyond. So, dear colleagues, we think it's a global issue. It is an energy issue. It is a professional and the moral obligation for the IEA to follow it up, and hopefully to make sure that in 2040 there'll be nobody, especially no women, no girls, die from the health the diseases caused by primitive clean cooking practices. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that is all we have time for, I'm afraid. We've covered as many questions as we can in the time we have, and even gone over time. If any journalists have further questions, we invite you to reach out to our press office, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So it just remains for me to say thank you very much to Dr. Birol, to Commissioner Matabohe, to Special Representative Kawishe, and to Ms. Kotsi. Thank you very much to the journalists for your questions, and thank you to everyone following this event online for your interest in our work on this hugely important issue. Just a reminder that the full special report on universal clean cooking in Africa is freely available on our website, so do please take a look. Thank you and goodbye.